A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I'm your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, the Coral Marcus to my Lauren the Betrothed, it's John Campbell.
I just love when it's always the most obvious references we make on this show, obviously, the classic characters. Hi, guys. It's weird still, this
Hey.
This is not as bad. Like last week, we were very upset.
Yeah.
This week, I'm more weirded out.
And I like being in the weirded out zone more than I like being in the this is actively damaging my calm zone.
Right. No, yeah, this one was more of an experience. Like last week, I turned the page on every page and be like, oh. This one, I'm more like, what?
Yeah, having Darth Vader being a truculent, fist shaking ne'er-do-well is not great.
Here we just have traumatic brain injuries to Force users.
I mean, look, we'll get into it. Because, yes, we are indeed covering issue number 49 of the original Marvel Star Wars comic book series. This particular issue was released in July of 1981. And we've got a creative team that I barely recognize. I mean, I recognize names, but...
Yes, we recognize them from other comics, not from this, yeah.
Right off the bat, we've got Mike W. Barr on writing. We've got the legendary Walt Simonson on pencils, who we've seen in this book before, and we will see again, which I'm very happy about. Mm-hmm. We've got Tom Palmer on inks, Christy Scheel on colors, and Don Warfield on also colors.
Yes. We also have Louise Jones, who of course we'll know later as Louise Simonson, as our editor. And then did you catch this fun little credit for one Jim Shooter? Credit as Empire Liaison.
Look, there may be some tension in the Marvel offices.
Yeah, I know. Believe it or not, some people didn't like Jim Shooter. I've never heard of this before.
Shocking. But yeah, let's get into it, because I think that right off the bat, we're going to be struck by the cover of this, not only for the art, but also because the title here might trigger some stuff.
Well, one of the things I love, of course, this is called, the difference is, there was a movie called The Last Jedi. This is The Last Jedi, exclamation point. So that's the key difference there.
That's fair, yes.
Punctuation makes a big difference. But when that movie came out, or in the interim after they announced that title and it was going to be coming out, I swear to God, I saw this cover because people were trying to find clues in this comic. I swear to God, that was like a thing where people were like, yeah, let's. I bet the secrets are in there. I bet Ryan Johnson pulled a random issue of the 1980 Star Wars comic and was like, "This is where I'll do the whole thing."
Specifically, like a weird interregnum issue in which the creative teams of this book are being actively shaken up. Like we're coming into this stretch now, and it'll kind of culminate with issue 50 and the issues after that, where the creative team of this book is basically being dismantled and rebuilt as Infantino and Goodwin depart and new blood is brought on.
Right. We're entering a time of turmoil in the Star Wars comics offices.
Yeah. We'll still get a couple of more Infantinos and Goodwins here in this little stretch here.
We don't,
Well, strap in, John. We got a double-sized issue next week we got to deal with that is coming straight for you.
I saw that preview, so stay tuned, folks, because that'll be our big celebration issue or episode of this show.
And then we got a couple of issues of random stuff, and then we have Chris Claremont coming on as a writer, where he proves that he really loves John Carter of Mars, and we'll get to that.
That adds up. But no, as we mentioned, we have Mike W. Barr taking the helm here. Who I know primarily as a Batman guy. A lot of Batman work for Mike W. Barr. Also, big part of my childhood because, as you know, I love Star Wars. But there's another Star franchise I might like a little more. and he did a lot of the 80s and 90s Star Trek comics over at DC. A lot of Star Trek comics. His most famous work people probably know is the much acclaimed Camelot 3000, though, is probably his
Oh yeah.
masterpiece or whatever, right? I mean, that's an iconic piece of work right there. So, but anyway, very very good writer. One might say better than Archie Goodwin. I don't know.
Look, Archie Goodwin's got a lot going on right now.
He does. I will say before we get into this, I do love Mike W. Barr. This issue might be a little overwritten, but that's the only thing.
Aren't they all?
Did he? Yeah. That's sort of a problem I have with a lot of older comics. But and then yes, Simonson on art, which I will say that is a true breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, let's get to this first page because right off the bat, just the artwork in this is a step above right out of the gate.
It's just cleaner. It's more detailed. The line work is just stronger. This is a guy at the height of his abilities, as opposed to a guy who's much older and sort of, I think, pretty burnt out.
Yeah, and one could argue that like this era Walt Simonson hasn't even really hit his peak yet.
No, yeah, exactly. This is young, hungry Walt Simonson right here.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about opening on the Y-wing.
Yeah, right off the bat, like just the composition of this page with the Y-wing being split between the crescent of the moon they're going around towards the planet they're heading to, like just how this page is put together and all the details drawn into it. It's just gorgeous.
That's the thing that really is so striking about it, right? Is the difference in Infantino cuts a lot of corners when it comes to the specifics of details on ships and stuff like that. He does come more from the Silver Age, which is more just sort of about very few lines that sort of, give you the basic shape of stuff. Whereas Simonson is so lovingly portraying this Y-wing, which I've always loved the design of.
I mean, this Y-wing is maybe a little weirder than the Y-wing we're used to, and we'll get into the spatial differences of this Y-wing in a moment.
Sure. But there's such design to it.
I'm just talking about just pure space composition. In an Infantino book, these would probably just be colored orbs.
Yes. Yeah, the fact that you have like a planet and its moon and they're distinct separate entities and we're crossing over one, and everything about this is really well done. And then do you like the old-timey medieval Last Jedi font?
Yeah, I'm not sure what credited as Shelley Lefferman here is going for with this scrawl. I'm not precisely. Again, the tone of this issue is a little all over the place.
Oh yeah. No, this is a weird issue. Like I said, it didn't make, but this is just weird.
I don't think on a scale of like Valance the Bounty Hunter to Space Genie, I think is our scale of weird.
Yeah.
This is definitely closer to Space Genie, but it doesn't quite get there.
Wow, very few things do, and that's going to be a bar to reach for that I'm not sure they'll ever get to, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But once again, just immediately, the bar is really writing this thing because it begins with a scream of engines as a modified Y-wing warps out of hyperdrive into normal space, and a shout of triumph from within the ship itself.
Yeah, we're starting off with some very purple prose here.
And that purple prose will continue all through this thing.
And we talk about a lot this term purple prose, and really what that means is like trying to be a wordy descriptor of events that evokes an emotion. And at its best, what it is additive to like descriptors of time, place, or thought that has to exist outside of the characters, so we don't just have a bunch of thought bubbles.
Right. And it's an interesting thing because it's certainly something that has definitely gone out of mainstream comic, particularly mainstream comic. It's pretty much gone. But at this time because I think what we're seeing weirdly where we are right now in 81 is this weird push and pull, right? With the two big creative voices at Marvel are Claremont, which is all prose. I mean, of course, Claremontian prose, the whole thing. And Miller, which is sparse, very little dialogue, art that carries action. And so it's interesting to see these are the two things, and everyone is sort of finding their place between those two.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking earlier about like the 80s comics is such an interesting watershed of like coming into the present of what we know as comics, and it's really interesting to see the push and pull across even beyond the big two, like in independent and like underground comics as well.
For sure,
and
because I mean,
how that whole scene develops. Yeah,
we're also getting a lot of the rise of the British guys around this time. Moore's coming in, who certainly leans more towards the purple prose of a Claremont.
Absolutely,
heady ideas, you know. So anyway,
let's get into it, because this Y-wing, they found it. Whoever's in this Y-wing has tracked a signal across half the galaxy to find something to help turn a solar system against the Empire.
is this just what the book is now? Is like, it feels like every issue is just like Luke and Leia find another thing that might help the rebellion.
I mean,
do you guys want to help?
I feel like we're at a point in this book where after Empire, we're squarely in a position where they know now they cannot push the story forward.
Totally. Yeah, yes, exactly. It's sort of like New Hope has such a kind of an open ending where it's like, victory for now, but the war continues, so there's lots of things to go here. This one is like, oh shit, that one ended on a cliffhanger that actually is gonna. We have, and especially if you have no idea where Jedi's going, you're like, we don't know how much time is gonna pass. Is the next one gonna begin right on the heels of it? Yeah, so it does feel like it's just. And so I do think a lot of my complaints about this are just the treading of water. And the like, even how much the characters can deal or react with what happened in Empire is also unclear. Because like, there's some weird shit in this issue where you're like, wait a minute, shouldn't you be more traumatized by the events of Empire?
What, you mean that bit where Luke says, "Thanks, Robo Hand"?
Yeah, it's like, I don't think he loves having a robot hand, but that's okay.
We'll get to
Gary's just like, awesome, so great I have that.
Because let's cut to the interior of the cockpit of this Y-wing, which is huge.
Yeah, and once again, of course, they've brought because it's a given for every mission that we bring R2 and 3PO.
Of course, they're the mascots of the franchise, John. They're on the stamped letterbox in the top left corner of the cover. We can't not have them.
Regardless of what's happening, we will have R2 and 3PO with us.
Yeah. This issue brings us a Y-wing that is like a super Y-wing. This thing is gigantic.
It's huge. They do say it's modified, by the way, in that purple prose. So maybe
True.
It's been, because they're really, the whole thing is like, why is it a Y-wing? They make a point about like it's a transport ship, which is not really what Y-wings are.
No, Y-wings are bombers. And so, it was just a little bit of a like record scratch in my brain at the start of this issue. Yeah. Just like, wait a minute.
It's almost like they went back and threw in that the word modified, just to be like, there you go, nerds, calm down. This is a different one.
Yeah. So we've got 3PO, R2, but we've also got Luke and Leia here in this Y-wing, quote unquote, because they have been tracking an automatic signal that leads to this derelict on a jungle planet.
Yes, exactly. And thank God 3PO's here to tell us all that.
Oh, all right, R2. You traced the signal, but I was here to help if you needed me.
Once again, it's so fucking useless. We're actively like translating something. Forget it. But the droid's friendly bickering is lost on the figures at the helm. Princess Leia Organa and Luke Skywalker. We didn't have enough room in the thing, so we had to split it.
Look, lettering is a hard and sometimes aggravating art form.
It's also a question about whether or not you need this, since they are the main characters of Star Wars, if we could have just cut to these two people who are clearly Luke and Leia.
Which, the fact that they're clearly Luke and Leia is actually a vast improvement on this book, and it should not be taken as a written thing.
This is true, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that looks like Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But immediately we're like, well, don't celebrate, Luke, because we don't know what's down there. There's a signal, but that could be, long gone.
Yeah, some kind of automated signal could be lasting for years.
Mm-hmm. So don't get too excited.
So they land, Luke hops out, they start looking around, and in one of the vastest gaps in a gutter I've seen in a while, Luke leaps to the alien soil and begins a search. Cut to the next page. A search as thorough as it was unrewarding.
We traversed the entire planet, folks, in a gutter. And a page
So
turn.
if
That's
we
how
look at
good
this
he
last
is.
page, they're flying by this like huge wrecked ship that has been overtaken by the jungle. Presumably, that's where the signal's coming from. They're going to
Yeah.
search it. And in between pages, yeah, Luke is like, "Well, we searched it all."
Yeah. Nothing there. I mean, economical writing, Mr. Barr.
Yeah, look, if there's one thing I can say about this issue, it's not taken its time.
No, it's verbose, which drags down the pacing. But in terms of yes, actual movement of plot, yeah. But what's this? A distinct Garug in the distance.
Groog. And out of that grooging, it strides through the thick foliage, its horned nose twitching, scenting new prey. And if it thinks at all, its rudimentary brain believes the small flesh thing before it is helpless.
In that's not Infantino. This is Simonson. Love drawing this thing, obviously.
Yeah, like, look,
Look at this thing.
saying it has a horn on its nose kind of makes me think that this might have started as an Infantino book and they had to change to like Walt Simonson midway through when Infantino didn't finish the issue.
Because it does have a horn on its nose, but it's going the other way.
Because normally the classic horn-nosed alien is a staple of Infantino aliens.
Yes. But instead, this is almost more. It's almost Klingon-y the way it goes up the nose into the forehead.
Yeah, I dig this monster design. It's like big. It's got spiky thumbs. It's got this weird mane. It's
I do
cool.
like the thumbs that are just like claws, you know. And Luke, though, little does this thing know, it cannot know that Luke Skywalker is never helpless. Not while he carries his lightsaber.
Hey, lightsaber spelled correctly.
Lightsaber spelled correctly. And he just lops this thing's hand off.
Or tries to.
What's this? My lightsaber sliced through it, but its flesh sealed instantly behind the cot.
Yeah, so Luke has a lot of time to explain what he's doing in these panels.
Yeah. Leia, try your blast. But before Luke can complete his sentence, as we go to the next page.
There's a zip.
Yep. And unshaven Clark Kent strolls into frame.
See, I was going to say a Robinson Crusoe looking motherfucker strolls out of the jungle.
That's true, too. But that blue hair always feels very Superman to me.
That's true. I mean, but that's just a, like, quality of the comic book itself and how printing works, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially going back into the day when it was, you printed blue for black.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, here he is, and he's got a big old can, and he's like, I fired it, stranger. It takes an anti-magnetic polarization ray to put those things in their place.
Sure.
Because this guy shows up with just all the masculine alpha energy, doesn't he?
Oh, he's got like a torn up shirt. He's like bearded. He's got a tousled mane of hair. He's striding out of the jungle carrying a gun. Leia is instantly like, well, hello.
Which makes no goddamn sense for her character at this point.
Yeah. Leia's a little out of character this whole issue.
Yeah, Leia's been, and was in the last one too. It's like, didn't the man she loved get frozen in carbonite and taken by the Empire? Wouldn't you think she'd have kind of a dour mood a little bit?
This issue in particular, when juxtaposed with the end of Empire, makes Leia seem like a psychopath.
Yep.
Or, maybe she's just like, she's having to bury some feelings right now, and so she's trying to like get her mind off things. So I don't know.
I can't decide if I hate more. Is that Leia's face or Luke's face? Like, oh, Leia.
So here's a problem we're going to keep running into, John, because it is just something that will not be resolved until
they don't know that they're siblings.
Yeah, until Return of the Jedi comes out, we're going to be stuck with this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a possible love triangle between Han, Leia, and Luke, even though Empire basically puts it to rest, but the comic book writers apparently don't really.
That's the thing, is just there seems to be, and we've talked about this before, there's not a lot. It's weird that now that we're like, oh, you guys are past Empire, you have more information. It's like, Yeah, but it doesn't feel like they've really written the characters as feeling like they went through the events of Empire. It sort of feels like they're still just writing the New Hope, post New Hope comic.
Yeah, and some of that might be just like the pace at which comic books are written. Some of that has to come down to they are still writing a comic book for children.
Sure. But it just, I don't know, it just, like I said, like this stuff where you're just like, hey, wasn't this kind of resolved? Or even if it wasn't fully resolved, you would think, once again, with Han having conceivably pretty recently been frozen in carbonite and not dead. I mean, the Empire ends with, we're going to go find him, for her to just be like, hello, sailor.
Because, yeah, she has this look on her face like, hubba, hubba, as she says, I'm Leia, and he's Luke. We're with the Rebel Alliance, and if you're Prince Denid of Velmore, we've come a long way to find you, and it was worth the trip.
And then something that I've totally imagined Luke Skywalker saying, what's the story, fella?
So, yeah, this guy is Prince Denid of Velmore. He is a castaway prince that is the main character of this issue, despite Luke and Leia being here.
That's another problem I have with this. It's all about this guy who does not exist in the movies. And is this his final appearance in Star Wars, Gurgani?
Ooh, what a good question. Something a better podcaster might have looked up beforehand. Yeah. But if I was to take a wild swinging guess, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, that was my guess, too. I also did not look it up, but I went like, this has got to be a one and done for Denid. I don't care what happened on Velmore.
Let's see. Oh, wow. He's got a fairly robust Wikipedia page.
Well, I mean, this is only appearance. He does spend a lot of time talking about what his story is, because we're about to get that right now.
His first and only appearance is in this issue of the comic, yes.
But we get everything about this guy. Because,
the real question is, does Velmore show back up? Oh, it totally does.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I would expect the planet might.
It's cropped up in... it's mentioned in KOTOR 2. Also mentioned in the Old Republic comic book series. And Coruscant Nights, Streets of Shadow.
Coruscant Nights. It's where things get sexy.
Oh, yeah. That's when Mastercom arrives.
Everybody in Mastercom's having a party on Coruscant, and you're all invited.
All right, but let's learn the tragic backstory of Prince.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, because here's the thing. It's just like, take a breath as you're like, my story is the following.
So, there is too much. I will sum up. Prince Denid was the prince of a planet that the Empire paid off to overthrow the monarchy of that planet. A mob chased him out of the world in favor of his brother, who was a little bit more favorable towards the Empire. Now, this was presumably like 20 years ago.
Yes.
Or ish.
But this guy's like 30.
Yeah, look, the timeline on this gets real fuzzy real quick.
Yeah. My younger brother, an Imperial sympathizer, yes.
But he fled the planet with his beloved betrothed, like someone he was promised to marry.
Yeah.
In some kind of arranged marriage.
Yeah. Can I say my favorite panel is them blasting away on a rocket ship as people are literally shaking their fists at him? Get out of here!
Yeah, but their fuel was low. They crash landed on this planet, and they've been there ever since. Yeah. But Loren died in the crash, and she's buried right over there as we get a wide shot of her grave.
That little mound over there, that's where my betrothed ended up.
But then he says, the two of us have lived here ever since. And Luke, the genius mathematician he is, says, the two of you? But if your betrothed died, then, wait a minute, who's that coming this way?
Okay, here we go. Let's get into the most problematic.
No, it can't be. Okay, a Jedi Knight.
How does he know this?
Okay, so we get a little bit of that in the box text here. I say box text as opposed to prose because this is like the text you get in a role-playing game supplement that says, and now read this aloud to your players.
It does feel like that. Well, because it's doing like that. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting, right? Where it's just like, okay, here's what you need to know. It just like, stop. The comic's going to stop right now for a second to tell you, all right, here's the thing about this guy.
So, 4. Though the stooped figure who stumbles from the jungle is dressed in tatters that resemble proud garb of the Jedis.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, let's stop right there. What? I've never seen a Jedi dressed like this, then or now.
It's interesting because even as of Empire, there's no established look for like Old Republic Jedi. It won't be really till the prequels that we sort of land on, well, those robes that Obi-Wan was wearing, that's what Jedi look like.
Yeah, but also Yoda wore a robe too, so I have to think that
Yoda's wearing a potato sack.
Well, it's true, but I'm just saying, like, the only context we have when they talk about the unmistakable is some sort of flowing robe situation. Is all the context we have.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So it carries only a gnarled staff and an obscene parody of the Jedi's proud lightsaber, and it mutters in an aimless voice, unguided by reason or sanity.
Yeah, unguided by reason or sanity. God, it's very verbose, folks.
And this thing says, Prince Denid needs Jedediah. Jedi will protect him.
Oh, I'm so glad you read it like that, because I read it in my head. It was a much more offensive voice.
I mean, he's got a weird bug face. I read it in a bug voice.
But we do establish that, yes, his name is Jedediah. Jedediah.
Yeah. But Jedediah thinks he is a Jedi.
Yeah. I also just like the whole idea. This thing is a walking parody of Luke Skywalker's high. Luke's just like, this thing's an embarrassment. Which, really, once again, the comics Luke is such an angrier dude than movie Luke.
I would understand Luke's reaction here if this was Don Juan Quixote.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
this is more just like, oh, this is sad.
Yeah, but Luke treats it like he's some kind of jokester or like somebody who's like making fun of the Jedi.
Right.
And it's clearly like, and especially we immediately get this guy's backstory. This was Prince Denid's like guardian who rescued him and his betrothed from the planet. But when they crash landed here, he was basically hit in the head by a rock and
actively brain damaged.
Yeah.
And he's like, look at this embarrassment. He makes me sick.
And Prince Denid said, his injuries robbed him of his reason. He remembered only his lost dream of becoming a Jedi Knight. And at that moment, he entered a fantasy world from which he has never returned.
The Luke I know would be like, what a poor, sad soul. Not, Jesus, this thing's a mockery of everything I stand for. I want to puke.
I mean, he's not going that far, but there's definitely moments later in the issue where Luke's like, hey, could you get this guy away from me? He upsets me.
They do make a point of saying, his blood boils. I'm a second away from killing this thing, man.
So we also get a like backstory note here that this guy was called to become a Jedi Knight, but then refused so that he could protect the royal family.
I'm always fascinated by Force users who don't want to be Jedi. It's always fascinating.
I think it's a very, very interesting take on the subject, and as of this recording, we're only a few episodes into the Acolyte, but it deals with a lot of this stuff, and I find it fascinating.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I find that idea fascinating. This does nothing with it, but
no.
Well, the other thing that really hurts is this character is brain damaged, so he can't really speak for himself, or like you can't really pick the brain of this guy who's like, I didn't want to be part of that order because I had different, allegiances.
But now he firmly believes he is a Jedi because of his like mental injury. It's weird.
It's a lot, and the comic kind of doesn't want to deal with it. Anyway, a sad tale of incredible sacrifice, is it not, Luke? And Luke is like, let's move on.
I say, if we don't blast out of here before this explosive charge destroys the ship and your transmitter, you'll wish you'd never found you at all. As Luke blows up the place they found this guy at.
Yeah, and we're out of here, baby. I mean, that is talking about this storyline moving. It's just like, we found this guy, let's go.
Yeah. So they cut away, and they're getting into hyperspace right as some other ship is coming out of hyperspace. I love this little
Yeah.
transition here. I think this is very well done in the art.
I agree, and it's something you never really see. Is like we're just quickly passing each other. One is entering hyperspace, one is exiting hyperspace, and they talk about like who was this? Like I don't know, man. Let's best not to find out. Is basically the answer.
It's like they're moving too fast for us to see who it was. We're moving too fast. Who knows if they even saw us? We're out of here.
If they're friendly, it doesn't matter, and if they're not, then it's good that this is happening. So let's just
exactly.
Go. Yeah, I thought that was actually an interesting little beat.
Then we get the kind of a little bit of a montage of them on their way to Velmore, and we get I actually really enjoyed this beat with 3PO and R2 when 3PO is like sword fighting with Jedediah.
I mean, other than that's not something I could ever imagine 3PO doing. Yes.
But R2 has the little like read for root, and 3PO saying, "Let the Jedi win." Very amusing, you overgreased sprocket.
That I do like.
Like that's a fun callback. That's good writing right there.
I just can't fathom the idea that 3PO would be like, "Yeah, let's get some sword fighting going in here." That's where they lose me a little bit, but no, I do like that. Is funny. Except for once again, he's just like. Jedi strikes with his lightsaber.
Yeah. We also get a beat establishing the rapport between Leia and the prince as he takes great pleasure in civilized comforts of the Y-Wing, even greater pleasure from the company of Princess Leia.
And then Luke's going, ugh. Once again, I'm gonna puke.
Yeah, as Leia's like, "Oh, don't worry, Dened," and Luke like mocking her and said, "Don't worry, Dened, brother."
I do not like comics, Luke. I'm going to say it right now. I do not like the Luke Skywalker of this comic at all. This guy sucks.
Yeah.
You were talking about him being whiny in the movie. It's like maybe in a couple places. He's nonstop whiny in this comic.
There have been very few times where comic book Luke has been like, "Yeah, that's Luke Skywalker right there."
It's very rare, yeah. Except for when they're literally adapting the movies. That's it. It's pretty dumb. Yeah. Like I said, they really latched on to, I need those power converters for Tashi Station. They're right. We're like, that's the character.
Look, we watched the first 20 minutes of Star Wars. We get it.
Yeah, we see. He's like the worst, right? And especially now that we don't have Han Solo in the book, too. You're like, oh, God, we're stuck with this guy? Hey, boy. Yeah. Which especially after... That's another thing, too, where it's like, I don't feel that the Luke who's acting like this has gone through the training with Yoda. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't feel like he's advanced because he's... You know, one of the things I love about the original trilogy, of course, is that Luke's arc is so fantastic. You really feel that by the time he shows up in Jedi, and you're like, oh, this guy rules, is because you've been following him on this journey and watched him become this badass all in black.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's really tough for me to see that this Luke Skywalker who's going like, don't worry, Dened, spent any time on Dagobah.
Even him acting like this after he blew up the Death Star is still a little crazy to me. You know, it's just like,
yeah,
boy. Anyway, all right.
Hey, what's this down there? It's a coronation.
God, this book loves coronations or formal ceremonies of all kind. They love that shit in this comic.
I do too, John. They add the comic even says, such occasions swell their hearts and spirits, for they see only the glamour and drama of the moment, while others think only of power. Like, it's automatically going to be a dynamic, interesting tableau when you have somebody lowering a crown onto somebody's head saying, now you are, wait, what's this?
Well, I love it. They show up at this exact moment. Like, the crown is about to touch this guy's head. And it's like, what?
They timed it perfectly.
The drama. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because he's just like, I'm back, baby.
So, yeah, they're landing right as the prince's brother is... Yeah. What's this kid's name? Prince Anod.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an asshole name. The disguises. The disguises, Gorgoni.
I unabashedly love Coral Marcus.
Oh, Pirate Luke.
Pirate Luke with his
Yar.
floppy hat and his eye patch and his handlebar mustache.
Yahar.
Because, yeah, as they land, they come off the Y-Wing, and Luke and Leia have disguised themselves for reasons.
Well, she's pretending to be Loren, the betrothed, who I guess
Why?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. They act like that somehow with her there adds more credence to his wanting of the throne or his entitlement to it. I don't know why that would matter.
And, like, I guess Luke is in disguise because he's the kid who blew up the Death Star.
Well, because they will recognize him later.
Yeah, but as far as we know, this place isn't under Imperial sway yet, right?
No, yeah, and that's also weird though, right? Because the idea that he was kicked off years ago because his brother was an Imperial sympathizer, you would have thought that would have meant he would have let the Empire in almost immediately.
But his brother Anod isn't the king yet, so he couldn't necessarily have ratified that.
Yeah, that's true.
But this advisor that we're introduced to here, who's lowering the crown onto Anod's head, is named Zelor, and he's kind of the evil, wicked vizier type in this book.
What? There's a lot of what in this?
Yeah, especially when Anod is like, Zelor, what's that ship doing? It mustn't spoil my coronation. And Zelor responds, quiet, you fool.
Keep in mind, they didn't necessarily expect to find all this. So once again, the timing of this, incredible. This was not a plan. They just happened upon this guy. They just happened to take off at that moment and just happened to land perfectly at this time.
Well, maybe it is a plan because on the previous page we have Dened saying, I must return to Velmore immediately. Soon the laws of succession will declare me legally dead and my younger brother will assume the throne and his sympathies have always been for the Empire. So, like, Dened knows that this is about to pop off regardless.
He's been stranded on a planet counting the days, and also the idea that's like, well, he might still come back.
And also, presumably, he's like 28 or something, because he fled when they were kids.
Yeah.
But,
and so it's like, does it take like 20 years to be like, no, we can't give you the crown yet. Your brother might still be alive. Let's give it a couple more years. What?
Or he says the laws of succession, so presumably there's like a hard break at some point in which his brother can assume the throne.
Yeah, it's all, what?
And it's his younger brother, so maybe it's like, okay, the kid needs to turn 18 for... But then he was an Imperial sympathizer when he was just a kid?
His younger brother. This Dened was a kid, and this was his younger brother, a younger kid who was way on board with the Empire. Also, like, just when it just started.
Yeah, okay. Well, this book does not know about the timeline of the Empire. We cannot, yeah.
That actually is true. I'm trying to think. I guess the original trilogy doesn't get into how long the Empire has been in power.
So, okay, but actually, the timeline still works out, actually.
Okay, does it?
Yes. So if Dened's been gone for 20 years, because Zelor later says that, like, I've been ruling this planet for 20 years as the, like, regent.
Right.
The Empire began a little over 20 years ago as of A New Hope.
Right.
And so presumably this place broke into chaos right as the Republic was being reformed into the Galactic Empire at the end of the Clone Wars, and that's what sparked all of this off. That kind of makes sense to me.
The idea of like a 6-year-old being like, the Empire sounds rad, man.
Well, I think it would be a thing that's like, okay, a bunch of people around the galaxy are like, wait, the Republic's now an empire? That's not good, right? That can't be good.
Like,
and
no,
some people being like, no, this is for safety and security of the new Galactic Empire.
And then
a 6-year-old being of that opinion, I don't know.
And an 8-year-old being like, no way, man, and like, we got to get this kid off this planet. It's a little clunky. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm just saying it's a little clunky. It's a little clunky, if you will.
I wouldn't go that far.
Anyway, a disguised rail pilot doing his best to look the unprincipled scoundrel.
Yeah, so we get
boy.
Leia's in disguise. She's dyed her hair. Luke has dyed his hair. He grew a handlebar mustache somehow and has an eye patch because that is always the disguise that works in Marvel books.
Yahar, matey. Yeah,
He's rocking a little bit of a Crimson Jack vibe, not
a
gonna lie.
little Crimson Jack, and then talk about. Let's go to the next page. This sweet purple like Prince outfit that Dane's got here with the buttons up the side. Ooh, looking
Yeah.
fancy.
Where did he get that? Was it just in the back of the Y-Wing?
Yeah, oh yeah. Apparently, they had a whole costume box ready for this.
Or they stopped off at the joke shop on the way here?
Quick, pull over to the costume planet, the novelty planet.
We need a prince costume, a pirate costume, and a betrothed costume.
Yeah, and 3PO bought some fake dog poop just for fun. Yeah, and so he's like, I'm Prince Daenid, son of Lorak, king of Velmor. Come at me, bro. He demands that they halt these proceedings and take a scan to see who that I am who I say I am.
And already we can tell who's the real power here, as Zelor's like, shut up, Anod, I'll handle this.
Yeah. Yeah, because, well, also, I just love that, of course, his brother doesn't look like him in any way, and is the most Weasley-looking little guy.
Yeah, he's got like a thin face and a big nose. I hate to say it, but like he's drawn very nebbishy. It's not a great look that this is like the Weasley little toady character.
Daenid, oh boy.
I mean, it's not that.
No, he's very Jerry Lewis. Guy, they got me.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's just like, I'm sorry. These two are related somehow. They don't.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dennett is just like this wide, square-jawed, like Lothario out of the jungle.
We had different mothers. That's the key. Yeah. So yeah. It leads to, once again. This is what I'm talking about. It's overwritten. There's so much. Look at all the words on the page to establish not a ton. Like, it basically is just like, okay, well, I do recognize you, but yeah, let's get the official DNA tests or whatever.
Oh, and like, look, this is the beginning of Zelor being just a serial over-talker.
Oh, God, yeah. It's just, although, boy, the literal icy dialogue bubble from the Imperial officer.
Right, because we're introduced to Captain Trawl, the diplomatic attaché from the Empire. And she says with an icicle-ridden dialogue box, delighted.
You would not see that today from something that's not trying to be ironic.
Yeah.
It is a little goofy.
It's on the nose. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, it's very of the time. Like I said, it works here. If I saw that in a Star Wars comic now, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, you expect to see that in like Deadpool or Harley Quinn or something.
Right. Yeah,
more
something
jokey.
that's being goofy. Yeah. And then geez, it's nonstop with the bits. Pleasant guy, isn't he?
Mwah, mwah.
Anyway, they turn him. They zap him like Daniel Stern in Home Alone 2, where he turned into a skeleton.
Oh, see, I thought he was becoming Dr. Manhattan because he turns blue in the second panel of this next
There
page.
you go. That's right. Yeah, because he gets zoomed.
He gets zoomed, but apparently what this is a bone marrow, blood, and muscle molecular scan.
It's uncomfortable.
I mean, look, you got to scan princes. You got to scan them deep.
Yeah. Scan. I don't even want to get into it. You're scanning people deep, and oh boy, this the people. Once again, it is so. Simonson is doing so much here, more than he probably needs to, because this selection of Terry Gilliam side characters that are offered.
These, yes, absolutely. These are three characters in the background of Brazil.
Yeah. These are some henchmen from Time Bandits. Yeah. What is going on here?
No, if these three aren't just like three people that Walt Simonson knows, I would be shocked.
Whoa, there's so much detail. There's reference here, right?
Yeah.
And the one guy who just has the thing on his eye that's not a patch, or I don't know, I guess it's a future monocle?
Cyber monocle.
Yeah, it's a cyber monocle. And I love that Dennett is smoking coming out of this thing. Whatever they've done to him, there's like mist wafting off him.
Well, you know how when you go in for a CAT scan and they like slowly lower you into the tube and you're in there for a while and they bring you out of the tube? They could do it faster, but you'd come out with mist coming off your body.
What is this pink mist? Yeah. And then they're like, well, hey, boss, it's him. It's him, and they're not going to love it. They're going to be upset about this.
And I love how everyone's just like, oh, the Regent's not going to be happy that this is the real dude coming back.
This is really bad.
My Regent, we are happy to certify that all the tests are positive. Prince Dened lives.
Don't kill us.
Yeah, exactly. That's the subtext here.
Absolutely. But then I also like to go, now, unfortunately, we can't run the same tests on the betrothed, to which, once again, I'm like, who cares? If it's him and he says that's her, why would we now? Well, because what if it isn't her? How would that change anything?
So here's my question. What Leia then says is, when asked to explain, she says, certainly, my Regent, I am from the planet Alderaan. My meta readings were lost when my entire planet was destroyed by the Empire.
You know, that thing that would be the greatest trauma I could ever suffer as a person, and I'll just toss it in here sporadically.
So my only thought here is that this is Leia's attempt to like start sowing some kind of mistrust of the Empire by saying like, okay, they destroyed a whole planet. Y'all remember that part?
Remember that mass genocide, the likes of which has never been seen before? Remember that?
Now, it does raise the question, was Dened's original betrothed actually from Alderaan?
I would think so, because otherwise these people are so looking for any reason to discount this that they would have that information, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have to. Yeah.
That long ago that they would have known. So I'm guessing they just kind of lucked out on that one.
I do love Trawl, the Imperial here's reaction. She's just like, oh, how convenient for you. It's like, bitch, your government blew up the fucking planet.
It's fucking convenient that every part of your race is dead. Also, you could put any of her dialogue in that icy. You're right. They could have icicles on all of her lines. That's all of it. Now, children, no bickering.
Oh, Zellor.
Oh boy. Yeah. And as he points out, it's true. His confirmation of his betrothed is proof enough. And once again, who cares? She has nothing to do with the line of succession. What does it matter? Why would they have scanned her at all?
Don't worry about it, John.
Anyway.
But now is the time for celebration, for Velmore's Blood Monarch has returned.
I just love the term Blood Monarch.
I love the term Blood Monarch.
I know, it's great. It's Blood Monarch. Anyway, boy, more of a brain-damaged, delusional Jedi.
Yeah, and this is where Luke gets a bad look, because he says to 3PO, keep this crazy old guy away from me, will you, 3PO? I have enough trouble without babysitting him. Yikes, Luke.
Yeah, Luke, he's not a crazy old man. He has a traumatic brain injury. Have a little sympathy, my friend. Good Lord. Yeah, this guy's been through a lot, and he seems decent enough. He's struggling.
There are worse things to believe than yourself a Jedi if you suffer traumatic brain injury.
Also, what have you been a Jedi for, like 5 minutes? Stop acting like he's offending my people.
Also, you actively left Yoda, and at least as far as this comic is concerned, haven't gone back to finish your training.
I want to just cut back to Yoda, like stamping his foot, like, that kid better get back here. Oh, bitch. I am curious to see if we get back to Yoda in this comic.
Little turd he is.
He's just talking.
Late again, he is.
Yeah. Said he would be here by now. He did. Yeah.
Respect Yoda's time. He does not.
So anyway, look at this banquet. Woo.
Hey, it's all in gold. That means it's fancy.
Yeah, I also like where it's just like, I do not have time to draw all the details on this.
Yeah, and that's fine. Look, we just need to give the idea of a big fancy banquet hall in broad strokes. And I think he does a good job there.
God, every time they show Luke in this costume.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
It's for as much as Lucas would indulge in some goofiness here and there, this is so goofy. So much goofier than anything in the movies.
like Luke in an eye patch with a handlebar mustache is one of the funniest images I've seen in this book.
It's because it's so much. The hat wasn't enough. The hair wasn't enough. The mustache wasn't enough. He had to put that eye patch on.
Oh, I guess we didn't say. Yeah, Luke has also recolored his hair to be like a bright redhead.
He's just like he saw they went, give me that eye patch too. That'll really complete this look.
Look, if it works for Wolverine, it'll work for Luke Skywalker.
Hey, no one in Madripoor ever knew who that guy was. I don't know him. He changed nothing else about himself, but he put on that eye. He has the most distinctive hair.
Is that Wolverine? No. Wolverine would wear an eye patch.
He doesn't have an eye patch. Never mind. Totally different dude. Yes, patch, one of my very favorite things. And yes, as of the recording of this, I cannot wait to see that come to the big screen.
Yeah. So then Luke is drawn into an ancient Velmorian ceremony in which guests of the house would have to fight for their meals.
This is nuts. Man, it's a little kooky. Yikes. Yeah. So
Luke is handed a what would eventually become a vibroblade.
Yes. Here they call them energy swords.
Yeah. They're just like swords with some crackling energy around them.
Yeah. But he's like, all right, I can't let on my prowess with the lightsaber. So I'm going to have to lose, but make it look like I'm not throwing it.
And then he gets walloped.
Yep. Yeah. And he gets his ass kicked. And then basically this guy's like, luckily it's not to the death anymore. And it's just like for show. Otherwise they would have
But
murdered you.
It does establish that Zelor good with a blade.
Yep.
I like that Luke is kind of putting his ass a little bit. It's just like, look, Luke, you spent like maybe a couple of months there on Dagobah learning to jump real good, but you don't know shit about lightsabers.
Hey, this is true. And then this guy, Danid, stands up. I love that this is just his vibe. The long hair and beard was not... I guess he took some of the beard off. He's got it down to a mustache. But the long hair is staying. That was not just because he was shipwrecked. That's his look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, his hair started that length when they crash landed the ship, and it just stays there.
Yeah, that's how it is permanently. So it's very 80s feathered hair and, luxurious locks. But he's like, hey, everybody, so happy to be back. I'm totally going to marry this blonde chick next to me. That's definitely going to happen.
And Luke, not knowing anything about subterfuge, says, but... what? Leia can't marry that guy unless... oh, man.
And then this Imperial captain is like, how about you and I go outside, pirate?
Hey, Marcus, why don't we go speak outside? Alone?
And then one of my favorite things that can happen in a comic, a word bubble that just has a punctuation mark. As if the face doesn't indicate that. Yeah. And anyway, she likes what she sees.
Yeah, so Luke's going to go out into the balcony here, still in disguise as his roguish self, Carl.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not mispronouncing Carl. It's spelled Korl.
That's how I pronounce it as well. Yeah, it's Carl. And she's like, "What say you and I? Come on, let's take over this planet together."
Hey, baby, mind if I pay you to kill a king?
It's about to go down. Yeah.
She's getting all up in his business, like rubbing cheeks with him, getting close, being like, hey, you know what gets me hot? Regicide.
For pay.
So yeah, she basically says like, hey, I know you're not really Carl Marcus. That name doesn't exist and is dumb.
That's no one's name.
You're probably wanted for crimes against the Empire. But tell you what, if you're that much of a scumbag, I bet you'd kill somebody for money, huh?
I bet you have no political allegiance.
Whatever reward you were promised for rescuing him, I'll double it. I intend to go far in the Empire, Marcus, and I'll be grateful for your help in a number of ways. And then she smooches him.
Oh, boy, does she ever. Um,
They full on tongue wrestle.
I mean, it is a open, but both mouths are open distinctly in that drawing. So things are happening.
Now, I don't know exactly what her oral hygiene routine is, but Luke is wiping his mouth as he's walking away.
Oh God. Why? Yeah. Disgusting. She's got the taste of evil on her. Yeah.
Look, it's from licking all those boots, I'm sure.
Well, her actions here do make me question how she rose to this rank in the Empire. I'm just saying.
Well, she is a captain who isn't currently on a ship. I think that might be telling.
Yeah. You're a captain. Okay.
But Luke, disguised as Marcus, says, "You got yourself a deal, Captain," as he walks away. And she says, "I think we're going to get along fine, Marcus. See you tomorrow and tomorrow night."
And then Dinah's brother, his neck grows 6 inches.
Oh, yeah. Because out of the shadows comes Zelor and Anod, and they're like, "So, did he agree to kill the prince? Good, good."
Yeah, she goes, he will kill that. And then she's like, and then we're totally going to kill him.
I'm not going to have to sleep with him at all.
Nope. She's all... she is supposed to be this like seductress, but in every pose she's like got her hips out and she's kind of half turned. It's like, ha ha, yeah, sexy evil.
I love the idea that like she is trying to use this sort of like honeypot seductress move, and she's just coming on so strong, so fast. There's no subtlety to this.
Way too much. And Luke just being like, "Yeah, lady, yeah,
okay, yeah, sure,
all right,
you're definitely not evil.
This is awesome. I am way into this."
But yeah, then we have a tete-a-tete with Zelor and Troll as they're discussing things, and basically they're going over like, look, we need to kill Dened so that the Empire can take over here, and we get a little bit of Anod being like, look, you can't talk to me like that, and Zelor being like, shut up, kid, this is the Empire we're talking to.
Can't I? And I mean, it's once again, it's a lot more long stretches of dialogue to explain things we very much understand pretty easily.
Oh, and the whole back half of this page is Zelor talking to himself, explaining what we already know.
But it's just like, well, of course it's just like, and our plan is we'll kill him so the Empire can take it. It's like, well, that's what I assumed the plan. Of course.
Yeah, but then Zelor says, but I'm going to kill them all.
Yeah. And then, excuse me with my cyber monocle. Hello.
Because, Zelor gets a message from just some rando who turns out was the other ship we saw at the beginning of this issue that was going to try to find Prince Dened to kill him. But Zelor's just like, ugh, of course, he's already been rescued. Just shut up. Now I need to monologue to myself in my big lounge chair.
That is the best, where he's just like, not a thought bubble, out loud, he is saying, by the time he returns, not only will that be the case.
I have ruled Velmor for 20 years and have no intention of relinquishing the throne now.
Yeah.
Of course, both the Empire and the people will want a scapegoat, as will I, and our mercenary friend Marcus seems born for the part.
He says out loud, once again, to no one.
Look, it's a long, proud tradition of evil bad guys who are dressed vaguely like Dr. Doom monologuing to themselves.
Yeah, he's just going, that all makes sense to me.
I mean, he's dressed all in green. He's got the boots. He's got the Dr. Doom belt even.
Well, as we talk about, we do like when it's just like, when they move away from the movies and they just immediately go into Marvel Comics imagery.
Yeah. I will say Captain Troll, pretty good, like, dressed up as an Imperial. Like, I think she looks good.
Which has not been the case in a lot of this comics.
Yeah.
And then, boy, Marvel really still trying to make Star Warriors happen.
Meanwhile, the Star Warriors.
Yeah. And if our young Star Warriors' ears aren't burning right now, it may be because he's somewhat distracted. And then,
so Luke does a little Prince of Persia around the outside of the building because he needs to go tell Leia about what's just happened.
And there's a close call, but thank God he's got that robot hand.
Whoops, almost took the fall. Bionic right hand, I love you. I am quoting that directly.
No, he doesn't. A horrible thing happened to him.
Right as he was told that Darth Vader was his dad, his hand was sliced
It's
off.
the darkest, most. I mean, you would think, once again, if you were writing this, in any semblance of trying to ground this character in something coming out of Empire, which I know they're not doing. This guy, Luke, would be so messed up in the immediate aftermath of Empire, right? He would be so confused, so angry, so guilt-ridden.
Thankfully, he's completely subsumed all of that trauma in the personality of Karl Marcus.
I just love the active refusal of character drama.
Yeah,
Even if you're writing a kid's book, it's like, I don't know, he could still be a person with feelings. No.
But John, how could you say there's a refusal of character drama when we have the silhouettes of Denon and Leia making out for Leia to misunderstand what's happening?
Oh my god. Oh no. And then Luke watching for too long.
Yeah, so, okay. Denon is talking to Leia here in silhouette, and Luke is overhearing from the balcony. And Leia's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have announced our marriage. And Dened's saying, well, but I do love you all of a sudden.
Well, yeah, which is insane. But also this idea about, like, don't you want to come live on this planet under an assumed identity?
And be a queen?
Not only can you be my queen, but you have to pretend to be this dead woman.
Yeah.
Weird.
And then also, Leia going along with it.
Yeah.
And, like, leaning in for the kiss here.
It's so weird that she chooses to kiss him because because it doesn't it feels like there's there's consent here. But she's like because it's that classic thing that, like, the drama does that would never happen in real life, where he's like, I want you to marry me, and she's like, and he's like, don't say anything until it's dramatically important later. Okay, just shut up. That's a thing I hate in movies, TV, comics, anything like that, where it's just like, I'm about to tell you that answer. You're like, no, save it for the third act. It's more climactic. Yeah.
Let us pretend that when the scene break happens, we are no longer in the same room together.
Yeah, like they kiss and it just cuts away. That implies that, like, they kiss and then it's like beat. Well, bye.
The implication here is that they spend the night together.
Yeah, and then yes, which is insane. And then also that while they're doing whatever they're doing, spending the night together, she never answers him about the marriage proposal.
Because, we cut to the next day, in which the day is crisp and clear, and the royal stable hands groom and saddle the huge yaquaks. How do you say that word? Ycaqts.
Yeah, I said yakats. Yakaks. It's weird.
Anyway, they're big, weird lizard things that everyone's going to be riding. They're basically blurgs.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're more frog-like blurgs.
And they have a longer tail, but yeah.
They've got the sort of frog legs that come up, like, I don't know. It's weird. Mm-hmm. I like when something's too weird for Star Wars. Like, and that's a little weird. And there's a lot of weird shit in Star Wars. But every once in a while, there's something like this where I'm like, all right, that's actually too weird for Star Wars.
We've passed the weird event horizon. Yeah,
you've done it. As much weird stuff as I go with in Star Wars, you've done it. You've out-weirded Star Wars.
So Luke and Leia have a quiet confrontation while riding their yakaks.
Yeah. Yakaks!
And Luke, being a prissy little nudge here, is saying, because you were too busy playing spin the bottle with Denon. Oh. That's why.
Oh, okay. This is the thing that did fill me with rage. Spin the bottle? Come on.
Look, John, there are bottles in a galaxy far, far away. Sometimes you gotta spin them. Sometimes you gotta smooch whoever it spins to.
I gotta give you Will Arnett. Come on. That really got me, where it's just like, no, I hate stuff like that. When people put in very earthbound stuff in Star Wars. Oh! Spin the bottle. Like we did back on Tatooine when we spun the blue milk bottle.
Look, we're just going to play rock, paper, scissors to determine who's right about this.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's such a dick. It's another one where it's like, Luke, wait, I'm going to... No, forget it. So long, my queen. I
Luke.
hate this guy.
Meanwhile, back in the castle, we've got 3PO escorting Jedediah around to the medical droid, and the medical droid being like, I don't know what to tell you. He's too crazy for me.
He's too crazy to live.
Not even medical droids can work miracles. The human brain, he's not human, cannot be replaced bionically. And his mind, which actually isn't true. We've met a cyborg with his brain replaced in the form of Lobot. Anyway.
Yep. Well, but I like at this point, they're like, we don't exactly know what that guy's deal was, so let's just ignore it. Is what it feels like to me. Like, we saw Lobot. They didn't explain him in that movie, so...
Yeah, I actually don't know what the timeline is on them explaining Lobot's
Yeah,
whole
I mean,
deal.
actually, it could be... It might be this comic that explains that at some point. Actually, who knows? Or a book, probably. But then, yeah, I do like, when we turn the page here... no, an oil change wouldn't help him, R2. So R2's an idiot now.
I don't know, just lube him up. That'll make him better.
Yeah, that seems like an R2, just like, no, R2, you dummy. And then, once again, great medical droiding. He's beyond any help. He'll never have a rational thought again. And there's another one where you just want the droid to go beat, beat, bye.
Also, he's having rational thoughts. They're just not,
Yeah.
they're rational thoughts from a different perspective that he has.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's stuck in one specific sort of, I guess, delusion of sorts. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a delusion, but it's a delusion of sorts because it is like he is just responding as if he's a Jedi Knight, and he obviously has some sort of speech issue because he speaks slowly and kind of. But he's not like he's aware of his surroundings.
I mean, yeah, he follows people when they ask him to come along.
Yeah.
He'll protect people when he needs to. And the end of this issue will definitely imply that he's force sensitive as well.
Yeah, but this medical droid's like, no, sorry, too crazy to live. Best to just kill him.
I mean, he does stop short of euthanasia, but
That almost gets there.
then we get introduced to the hunting rituals of the planet as they release a bunch of these pink little koala frog things.
This felt like maybe one thing too many in this comic to me.
Yeah, so, okay, they're going off on this royal hunt, and we've got all of our main characters here, and they're going to be splitting up and going out into the wilds, and of course, they're going to use this as an opportunity to try to kill some people.
Yep. And they let out the traditional taru, taru.
I love a good hunting horn, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then we don't do anything with the hunting.
But this time, a handful of participants are playing a game in deadly earnest.
What I like about this, though, is so the hunt begins and then cut to, we're just hanging out by a stream.
Oh, look, we've been hunting for a while, so we're just going to chill at the riverside here.
This, once again, in the interest of brevity, he's doing so much in these page turns.
Oh, and talk about brevity. Things are going to go sideways in this one page so quickly.
Well, I do love when these this happens a lot in this comic where it's just sort of trucking along, and then the book's like, oh God, only so many pages left. Have everything happen now.
So, okay, Leia and Denid are hanging out by the river.
Yep.
In the distance, we have Luke and Captain Troll, and Captain Troll is like, do it for me, Marcus. Do it for me now.
If you love me, you'll kill him.
Luke pulls a gun, but then says, I'd like to talk about our agreement once more, at my convenience. What?
What are you talking about?
But then, okay, there's a sequence of 4 panels here. Luke and Troll off in the distance looking at Denid and Leia. Next panel is Troll and Luke talking in low whispers. Luke pulls a gun. 4th panel is, what's this? Anod and Zelor were also in the more distance looking at Troll and Luke, and then Zelor shoots Luke's gun out of his hand.
I love Walt Simonson. I don't know if this is all his fault. I think it's, but I will say I did have to go back a couple times just to go, okay, right, okay, yeah. It does make sense, but it's a lot.
What doesn't make sense is what happens next when Anod then opens fire on Leia and Denid, and it seems like he kills them.
It sure does. How did it not?
Idiots didn't set it for kill. It was
That's
set
what
on
they say
stun.
later, except for we know what stun looks like, and it's not like this.
It doesn't look like a giant laser blast that evaporates the bodies.
No. Believe it or not, it does not. And we have seen stun at this point, so I can't go like, well, they don't know what it looks like yet. It's
Yeah.
a movie.
Yeah, it's those little blue rings. We know it for sure.
Yep. But so anyway, zip it, zip it. And then also at this point, Enid is turned into the Riddler.
Yeah, he's in all green, and he definitely has kind of a
You know what I
Edward
love?
Nygma look about him.
He's so committed to this. His gun is green too.
Well, that's just a coloring issue, John, because it was clearly gold in the last panel.
Yeah, I know. It actually is a few different colors. And well, it's also there's a lot of interesting color here because Luke's lightsaber is suddenly red.
Well, he's angry because they killed Leia.
You killed Leia. Drop that blaster. What kind of weapon is that? And then I love it's the captain going, "That's a lightsaber." And he called the girl Leia. No, he can't be. And yet he must be.
With these subtle clues, Captain Troll has finally put together the mystery.
I just love what Shakespeare play did we turn to? He can't be, yet he must be.
I will say, this is all happening within the same page, which is wild.
Yeah, and then she's like, "No, wait, don't kill him. We need that guy. There's like a huge bounty for him. Everybody wants that dude." And they're
Yeah,
like, "I
she's
don't care."
crying out like, "Hey, he's worth a seat at the Emperor's Council if we take him alive." And Zellar's like, "Screw that. He's worth a planet to me. Kill him."
And so they're shooting at him.
And he's also shooting at Zellor.
Yeah.
Or Zellor's shooting at Troll, the Imperial captain.
Yeah, but Captain Troll manages to dodge Zeller's deadly blast, and seconds later, her laser fire, once again, always weirded out when they say laser, but I'll go with it, rips through the traitorous, which I do like. This is something that's very much in the comic, and I know is just so it doesn't get too violent, but like, in Star Wars, yes, like a laser bolt, a blaster bolt or whatever, just goes right through you. Here it, like, surrounds them in this field that they're, I guess, dying in. It's much more violent.
They get hit by a wall of Kirby crackle and fall over and die.
Absolutely, they do. And that's sort of the problem I have with this here. Is just like, no, it should just punch right through the guy. But I understand they got comics code stuff to worry about.
Look, Frank Miller is going to be like disregarding a lot of that here in the coming years.
Well, it's actually interesting that we're still doing comics code because, of course, as we know over time, that really does get phased out and becomes less important.
Well, and the 80s is really when that, like, especially in mainstream comics, they start pushing that envelope more and more. And it's by like the late 80s we get like Dark Knight Returns and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you think Alan Moore or Frank Miller gave a shit about the comics code?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, they actually were like, please tell people you didn't approve this. It'll sell more books. So yes, he's dead, and Luke's being shot at now.
Yeah, Luke goes fleeing off into the woods with the Regent Zellor chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
But now the jig is up. Luke has been rumbled as Luke Skywalker, and yet he's still wearing that eye patch.
He does finally take the eye patch off here in a very
on the next page he takes the eye patch off.
Yeah, because I guess it's over. I can lose this eye patch, cool as it is.
And he loses the mustache somehow.
That just fell off during the chase. Spirit gum is pretty good, but it only lasts so much.
That's true.
Yeah. So yes, there's this brief sort of chase through the woods, and then the most psychedelic vision of the Force I've ever seen.
I dig it because Luke is running through the forest. He's like, this guy Zellor, he's got a blaster on me. I don't know what to do. I guess I need to reach out with the Force to see if I can summon some kind of ally to help me.
Yeah. And does he ever? Because what's this?
In the distance, at that instant, at the castle, miles away, we have Jedediah hanging out with 3PO and R2, but then he hears Luke's psychic call?
Yeah, I guess.
And he shouts out, "I must help him!" And his word box changes.
Yeah. And suddenly he's like, I am fine now.
He's like, "What? The young one. He is in danger. I must help him." And he gets on one of the big Notblurgs and rides off.
Yeah. And he's there's a wheat and a devoot from R2, but he's gone.
our 3PO shouting after him like, "Oh no, I'm going to be in so much trouble."
We're totally getting fined for this. They're going to demote us. What?
So Luke is meditating, and meanwhile we have Zelor sneaking up behind him, doing the dumbest thing possible.
Yep.
Putting his gun away.
He goes, yeah. His, once again, color matching gun.
Yeah, well. So he's sneaking up behind Luke. He says, "There's Skywalker. He doesn't seem to hear me. I could simply blast him, but I prefer the irony of running him through with my energy sword."
All right. Yeah. Dumb stuff, buddy. Also, I love that the energy swords are just lightsabers, but they have like the hand guard that would be on like a rapier.
I mean, the idea of a rapier lightsaber is pretty cool to me.
Oh, it definitely is. It's just the idea that's the only difference, really.
Yeah.
As drawn.
I don't think the blade doesn't seem to go anywhere as opposed to a lightsaber.
Right. But when it's activated as drawn, it appears the same as what I'm...
True. And again, it's weird that like the energy blade is blue, but Luke Skywalker's lightsaber famously
I know. They can't...
red.
They can't with the colors of the lightsabers. I do not understand what this issue is with this gun.
Also, actually, it just occurred to me. How the fuck does Luke have a lightsaber?
What do you mean?
He lost it on Cloud City. His hand got chopped off.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. They do just have him with they have just had him with the lightsaber in these issues.
Yeah.
We don't have any of, because of course we know he builds a new one, but that's sometime close to the events of the beginning of Jedi.
I mean, there's that deleted scene where he's literally building it in the cave on Tatooine.
It literally would have been the beginning of Jedi, yeah. Which really would have screwed over this comic. Yeah, fair point, actually, now that you say that, yeah. I have just been taking for granted they're just like, he has one.
Yeah, Luke has a lightsaber. That's what the toy comes with a lightsaber.
Once again, they're still just writing the Luke immediately post New Hope. They really aren't doing post Empire Luke.
Yeah, so anyway, Luke manages to block the strike right as it's coming down, swing around, and basically kill Zelor.
And he is a little blasé about it in a way that also doesn't fit the character of Luke, where he's like, because he says, "I'm not taking your life," but then he does, doesn't he?
Well, he swings around, he blocks him, he slashes his sword in half, and then says, "I want some answers, Zelor, but in the distance, what's this? Captain Troll's got a gun on Luke."
Yeah, and then out of the woods comes, once again, a fully cognizant speaking Jedediah who's like, "No, you will not take him!"
And lunges at Captain Troll.
I like her just going, "Who?"
Knocks her to the ground, but then a gun blast goes off, and oh no, Jedediah has been killed in an act of bravery to save Luke.
Yeah. That Luke immediately is just like, "What? No, he killed him. He sacrificed himself for me." And then he's just... love the thing of this guy being like, "That's right, just keep looking over there." And now is where Luke is like, "Now you die, motherfucker."
Luke has the most cold-blooded line here. "I rarely fight to the death either, Zelor, but in your case, I'd make an exception."
This is what I thought was like, boy, that is rough for Luke Skywalker.
But then he rushes over and knocks out Zelor. But he cannot save Jedediah. The not Jedi has died.
They do that thing again where they arrow point you to at this point in comics, they're still very concerned about, are you following this?
Yeah, comic book, I don't know, reading comprehension is something that certain comics are still concerned with.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And the idea that it just happens sporadically, where they're just like, maybe, this to me would be like, maybe you guys need to rethink how you've laid this out if you're worried people, but whatever.
But then, don't worry, because out of the bottom left of the panel, Leia and Denid showed up, and they're fine.
Hello.
Denid tried to kill us, Leia, but he must have set the blaster on stun. Poor Anod, he was always the loser.
Damn it. I don't even care that my brother's dead. Anyway, but yeah, it's just this... That's such a great thing, too, because it's just like, that's how we're still alive. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So, yeah, anyway. Later, and they're just like, "Don't worry, Leia. Now that I'm in charge, nobody's going to tell the Empire you were here. It's fine." She's like, "I don't want to marry you, but we're still going to make out a little bit more to piss off this guy."
Han who?
Yeah. I literally just lost him after we went through an entire movie about how I love him. But whatever. Yeah, hey, time to move on. This Leia moves on quick.
Look, if you got a swarthy space prince to go smooching on, I would too.
Who's saying no to Dennet? That's all I'm saying.
Look,
So
that mane of blue-black hair, that mustache, and all of it. I mean, in this last panel, he's wearing a cape, and capes equal sexy in Star Wars.
Speaking of, we need to get back to our friend Lando.
Oh, hold on to your horses.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I have a feeling we'll see him again very soon. So yes, they take off, and before, but not before launching the body of Jedediah into space.
So before they go into hyperdrive, seconds later, a small rocket-powered coffin zooms into the void, carrying the body of the man who saved Luke's life. So. Yep. I don't know where Luke got this elaborate space Viking coffin that he can just launch into space.
Fare thee well. Safe travels to the other side, my friend. I don't.
May the cosmic Valkyrie sing thee to Valhalla.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened here. I don't know how this happened. But
and he speaks the words, though no one else can hear them, as Luke, standing on top, outside in space, on top of the Y-Wing.
Truly insane. Hoisting his lightsaber aloft, which is still red.
If the context of this were different, this would be incredibly, like, Solomon badass. I love the composition of these last three panels. I love the art here and how it's laid out. But some logical inconsistencies really ruin this because, as Luke says, I thought you were just a crazy old man, but I was wrong. Yours was the soul of a true Jedi Knight, the last Jedi. Okay.
Fuck yourself.
I pray that I pray that I meet death as valiantly as you did.
Yeah.
May the Force be with you, Jedi, forever. See, that last line I like, but
yeah, he could have just said that. No. It's very dumb. It's very bad.
I mean, I think
no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think without context, I think this is fine.
Oh, it's not like poorly written. It makes no sense. It's just like, did you see Empire Strikes Back?
This whole issue reads like they didn't see Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mike Barr is like, what? There was another one? It was just a one movie. They made a sequel? Why, was the first one popular? No. I didn't think anyone saw it. No. And so there it is. There he goes. May the Force be with you, Jedi. Forever!
I like the salute that Luke has here. I like a lot of the stuff here at the very end, but
Simonson's art, great. Barr's script, some good ideas, but some weird choices here and there. But a more interesting issue, certainly, than the rage-filled thing that was last week's. But Gorgoni next week, it's a spectacular giant-sized issue.
The Crimson Forever.
Oh boy.
That's a good comic book book title, if nothing else.
That is good. And look, I will say, I looked at the cover, which is pretty rad.
Yeah, we'll get there next week. But yeah, we're up on the 50th issue of this book. Wild that we're already 50 in.
Crisis of us going, what have we done with our lives? Yes, I do.
Well, and it sort of marks it marks a big halfway point because like this book really only goes a little bit past 100.
Yeah.
And like we're solidly into the halfway mark of like our coverage of this book, I think.
Right.
And like I said, we're going to be seeing a lot of creative shakeups here in the near future. Chris Claremont's going to be lending his expertise to this book for writing for a little bit.
As he should. I'm very much looking forward to that as a massive.
Oh,
John. Shouldn't get too excited.
Don't. I've read ahead again.
Yeah,
I love what Chris Claremont does with this book.
Yeah.
You're going to roll your eyes so hard at what he does with this book.
Gotcha.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You read ahead. I really do just take this week to week. I read these the night before we record, and try to come in as fresh as possible. So,
and I love you for that, but boy, we're in for some doozy of some issues. If you thought this was a weird non sequitur, strap in.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
But we got to get through our giant-sized double 50th issue first.
Yeah.
And if you were rooting for some Lando, we're going to be getting us some Lando.
Hell yeah. By the way, it should be noted, I'm always rooting for some Lando.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But of course, if you want more from us and all the shows of the Punch Up Entertainment, you can head over to our Patreon page, which is patron.podbean.com/punchup. There you can get cool exclusive bonus content as well as help support all the shows on the network. It is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the best ways to appreciate this show is by doing it over on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. There you can have a different way of experiencing all these shows, including what we usually say is the best way of appreciating this show, which is reading along with us on the YouTubes. And we have, of course, our Punch Up Goes to the Movie reviews over there, where we talk about movies that don't necessarily make it to the podcast feed. But if you want to hear us talking some recent releases, you can check us out over on YouTube. And we're just starting up our Punch Up Play series, where Elliot Lewis and I, of other Punch Up Entertainment guest fame, are playing through the Mass Effect series. We're having a lot of fun over there as I drive the boat while Elliot navigates. Some of the decisions they make are questionable at best, but we're doing it to it.
Well, why else would you want to watch unless questionable being made?
Absolutely.
Yes, head over and check that out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications.
Absolutely. There's our call to action. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. As always, I have been Mike Ergoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And remember, may the panel be with you.